Tonight, a cardiologist here in central Indiana is facing claims that he performed unnecessary heart procedures on some of his patients. That doctor told 13 News he provides quality care, but some of his former patients say the care they received from their doctor left them traumatized and with permanent injuries. 13 Investigates already introduced you to one of them, and tonight our Bob Siegel is back to explain how many people have come forward and why these heartbroken patients feel it's so important to share their stories.
I could walk around here with a walker or my cane, and I could do the gardening. Now I can't do it.
Carlotta Lawton says her life was considerably better before she met a local cardiologist.
I can't feel in half of my leg.
How could anybody do this?
John and Susan Flum feel the same way.
Our lives became a nightmare.
The cardiologist they're talking about is Edward Harlemert. He's been treating patients at Central Indiana hospitals for more than 30 years through Community Health, IU Health, and now at Witham Health. The doctor's attorneys tell 13 Investigates Dr. Harlemert has treated his cardiology patients based on their unique circumstances, his expertise, and the tools available, and he's always been committed to providing quality care to his patients. But the doctor and the health systems are now facing several malpractice complaints filed with the state. In those complaints, Carlotta and other patients claim Dr. Harlemert performed unnecessary cardiac catheterizations, implanted unnecessary coronary heart stents, incorrectly diagnosed patients, prescribed unnecessary medications, and made false statements. And the complaints allege the doctor's negligence resulted in great pain, emotional distress, trauma, significant medical expenses, and severe and permanent physical injuries.
I'm in pain 24/7, and there's no way you can get out of it.
Carlotta saw Dr. Harlemert 2 years ago at Witham Hospital in Lebanon. She says her main complaint was a migraine headache, but Dr. Harlemert diagnosed her with something else.
He took one look at me, and he just said, "You're having a massive heart attack."
The doctor recommended a heart catheterization, a procedure that involves inserting a catheter, a thin tube, into a patient's groin area and then guiding it through blood vessels to the heart, where a special dye can reveal clogged arteries. And if a blockage is found, it can sometimes be opened by inflating a tiny balloon inside the blood vessel and implanting a wire stent to keep it open and improve blood flow. That's what Dr. Harlemert did to Carlotta.
He goes, "Well, let's check your heart."
According to medical records from the procedure, Dr. Harlemert found her LAD, or left anterior descending artery, was 75% blocked. He inflated a tiny balloon and implanted a stent to open the blockage. But was the stent necessary? 13 News asked other cardiologists to review the same images that Dr. Harlemert saw. Those doctors include the medical director of the heart attack program at St. Luke's Hospital near St. Louis, a cardiologist who runs the Advanced Heart and Vein Surgery Center near Denver, and the director of interventional cardiology at NYU Langone, the top-rated hospital in the state of New York. They all told us the blockage in Carlotta's artery looks much less than 75% and far below the 70% considered medically necessary to justify a stent.
I see right in this area probably around 50% or so narrowing.
Denver cardiologist Kaser Khan says he would not have placed a stent in Carlotta's chest.
Not without further evaluation.
Morton Rinder, a Missouri cardiologist hired by Carlotta's legal team, agrees.
This is unnecessary stenting.
And Dr. Sunil Rao says he would not have placed a stent either. The New York cardiologist is president of the world's leading medical society for interventional cardiology. After reviewing Carlotta's video from the cath lab, Dr. Rao said, "In that LAD, no narrowing that would have warranted a stent whatsoever. My jaw dropped when I saw that." We asked the cardiologist to look at films for another patient who's filed a complaint against Dr. Harlemert. That patient, who asked not to be identified, received 4 stents from the doctor back in 2003. That's the first one right there, and it was not needed, according to our experts.
But there's absolutely no significant blockage in this artery.
It looked pretty normal to me. I didn't see any blockers at all.
4 days later, Dr. Harlemert did another catheterization on that patient and inserted another stent. His medical notation said there was a 40% blockage. Dr. Rao told us there's 2 issues there. First issue is it's not a 40% blockage. The second issue is we don't stent 40% blockages. Dr. Rinder saw the same thing. He sees only a 10% blockage, far below the standard for implanting a stent.
Would you put a stent in there?
Never. He called it a 40% and then put another stent in. Even if you believe that it really is 40% blocked, you still wouldn't put a stent in.
And just 1 month later, when the patient had more chest pains, medical records show another trip to the cath lab resulted in 2 more stents from Dr. Harlemert. Dr. Rao looked at the cath films and told 13 News, "There's nothing that approaches any kind of severity that would warrant a stent. I did a double take on a couple of them because I've actually never seen anything that egregious before."
It is the first stent that kind of led to the second stent, led to the third stent, and so forth.
Of those 4 stents, how many were actually needed?
None. 0. None. 0. None of them needed to be put in. Completely unnecessary.
And then there's John Flum's case.
I was a mess. I just wanted it over with.
John says he became suicidal following dozens and dozens of heart procedures. Medical records show over 7 years, John received 44 heart catheterizations and had 41 stents placed in his chest, all from Dr. Harlemert.
It's unheard of. I can't even imagine putting someone through that.
Doctors consulted by 13 News say some of the blockages repaired in John's chest did not need repair at all.
Are you troubled by what you see there?
Yes.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
And they say so many heart procedures performed by John's doctor actually made some of the heart blockages worse, not better.
Yeah, putting more stents in actually made things worse, no question.
A total of 7 patients have filed malpractice complaints against Dr. Harlemert in the past 7 years, more complaints than almost any other interventional cardiologist in Indiana over that same time. Of the 7 complaints, a medical review panel determined in one case that Dr. Harlemert failed to comply with the appropriate standard of care. The specific allegation and settlement are confidential, but state records show the patient received a $187,000 court settlement and a $750,000 payment from the state's Patient Compensation Fund. In another case, a medical review panel sided with Dr. Harlemert, determining the evidence did not show that he failed to meet the applicable standard of care. The other 5 cases are still open and waiting for a medical review panel to review them, including the cases filed by John Flum and Carlotta Lawton, who says she's in agony every day because of the heart procedures performed by Dr. Harlemert.
What did he do to you?
Ruined my life.
Carlotta says she's now crippled, unable to walk or even feel her right foot after a huge blood clot immediately developed in her groin in the same spot where Dr. Harlemert inserted the catheter wire. After that heart cath, hospital records show Carlotta went into shock, needed 4 units of blood, and listed her prognosis as grave because of internal bleeding from the blood clot, all following a procedure she says she didn't need in the first place.
What about the next guy?
That's why Carlotta and others are now speaking out.
I'm just trying to protect other people.
Look, this has to stop. Somebody else's life could be at stake. It just needs to stop.
We contacted Dr. Harlemert and all of the hospitals named in the malpractice claims. They all say they won't discuss the allegations because of pending litigation. Dr. Harlemert's attorneys told 13 News the doctor will address the complaints through the state's medical review process, where he'll present evidence to a panel of unbiased doctors. In the meantime, the cardiologist is still practicing. If you've been a patient and you have comments or concerns, we'd like to hear from you. You can reach us at 13investigates at WTHR.com.
Bob, a lot of us really trust our doctors. How would we even know the first thing to do to question the medical care that we're getting?
It really speaks to the importance of getting a second opinion, and that's something that every patient is entitled to. In fact, talking with other doctors, that's how these patients say they finally figured out something wasn't right.
All right, Bob, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if you want to read more about these cases or watch the entire investigation, just go to WTHR.com and be sure to click on the 13 Investigates section.